Aries, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits and how they impact your natal sun, and then what that means for your day-to-day, your bottom line. I'm going to start off really broad with the big stuff, the current charts for the week. And then I'm going to focus that down into Aries specific information. And then I'm going to break everything down into the 3 decans of Aries. A decan is a group of 10 degrees, and by doing so, it will help me understand what groups of natal suns are being impacted because they're forming specific aspects to other planets. So how do you know where your natal sun is? Well, you don't have to know anything except your birth date to understand this video, because I will translate everything for you. But of course, the most accurate answer is to get your natal chart, which you can do for free online. So many different places, but you'll need your time of birth, your date of birth, and your location of birth. In the US, this is pretty easy because all that information is on the birth certificate. But in other countries, you're just going to have to ask somebody, or if you know for a fact that you were adopted or don't have that information, an astrologer might be able to help you by doing an interview and trying to understand what exactly was happening around the time of your birth. So we could get different demarcations and locations in time, but that's much more integral. Most of you will not need that. Let's start off with the big stuff, shall we? This is for the week of August 24th through the 30th of 2023. What is the big stuff? Well, we just had a lot of big stuff yesterday. So on the 23rd, Mercury went into retrograde, and the sun went into Virgo. We also had the sun kind of officially hit the opposition with Saturn. Actually, that happened around the 22nd. And that's pretty intense. And then this week, we're going to have something that impacts you specifically as well, because Mars is going into Libra. Mars transits into Libra. Why did I rush and say that, right? Because all that other energy, Mercury going retrograde, the sun moving into Virgo, the sun going in opposition to Saturn, all of this really slows us down. And in some ways, maybe even in an oppressive way, making us feel kind of held back. And Mars going into Libra, even though Mars is still direct, it's moving at regular speed, it's moving forward, going into Libra, it goes into detriment. And that kind of makes it more vulnerable. It's not as impactful because Mars in Libra likes to try things from both sides, and it deliberates a lot more before it takes action, or it takes action on evening things out as opposed to pushing them forward. So not that that's a bad energy. It's just that everything seems to be kind of clogging right now. And this is just something that we have to accept, because if we don't, then we not only waste our energy, but we kind of will almost exhaust ourselves. You know, in some situations, depending on how you're taking it personally, how personally you're taking it, we can also really get discouraged, and that could leave us more susceptible to a couple of other things that are happening this week with Neptune. Neptune is in opposition to Mars for most of the week. It's actually through the 30th of this week, and it's in opposition to Mercury up until about the 26th of this week. So what does that mean? 27th. So what does that mean? Honestly, it means that we'll buy a lot more bullshit. It means that it's easy to sort of bully us into believing delusional or illusionary things. Mercury in opposition to Neptune is very confusing. It's very foggy energy. And then Mars in opposition to Neptune really plays on our feelings of inadequacies, so that we will jump at shadows in order to show, because we feel like we have to show that we're doing something, when we really don't know what to do, because it's all a fog as to which action we should take next. So for this week, it is not a good week for a lot of action, or definitely don't jump into anything serious. With Venus still in retrograde, I would not suggest any kind of signing big contracts or making big deals, because if so, this could definitely be you being bamboozled. Really. So wait till after this dissipates a little bit. By the end of this week, on the 30th, we have a full moon in Pisces that is conjunct to Saturn. So any kind of toxicity or toxic authority that has been sort of playing on us or making false promises to us, or any kind of sort of feelings of being too ruled and being too lorded over will really start to pop at this time, because this full moon is conjunct to Saturn. All full moons are in opposition to the sun. This is really a confrontation of the emotions, or a release of the emotions that come from that, but also a release of the illusions that are happening. It could really pop by the end of this week on August 30th. What I know is this could also bring up a lot of family issues as well, that could really make you think, well, why do I keep doing this? Do I feel like I have to? It's almost a time where there could be this expose, because the moon and Saturn would represent mom and dad. They would represent that family energy, and that full moon in Pisces could just be, how have we deceived ourselves? How have we played ourselves? And intuitively, how have we forced a situation that maybe should not have been forced, or been subjugating ourselves to that kind of energy for however long we've been doing it. So there does seem to be a comeuppance at the end of this week, but that still doesn't mean, hey, sign anything important or take any important steps. This is definitely a time to look twice, to really think deeply and investigate as much as you can. It's not about paranoia. It is 100% about getting the facts. Very important. So we also, let's say this, have Venus square to Jupiter. That can be a problematic energy, because there's an optimism here that's engorged by material or sensual pleasures. So it's almost like a distraction, because Venus is also says a square, says a quadrate. I always say it wrong. To Neptune, which means that this over romanticism, this frustration or irritation with not seeing our expected dreams, are flooding our sensual pleasures, or flooding or making us want to flood ourselves with sensual pleasures to sort of overcompensate. So there is a sense of, you better watch out for believing something that is too good to be true, because it is 100% too good to be true. There has definitely been deception in the air. By the 29th, Mercury is going to be trine to Jupiter, Mercury retrograde, and it will definitely also be out of the influence of Neptune. So this could be when at least part of our brains come back online. Another big thing that happens is Uranus, which is our higher brain, our higher intellect, also goes into retrograde on the 29th. So Uranus in retrograde and Mercury in retrograde will be trying each other. And then Mercury will also, by the 29th, trine Jupiter. So there is a sense of expansion by retrospective, or by digging deeper and going inward. It's really about finding our current resources and thinking of things in a different way that we already have access to, instead of over-engorging ourselves on whatever pleasures are available. It is not the easiest week. It's not a horrible week. It's not, because it teaches us to slow the heck down. And it teaches us that we already have so much. And it teaches us that maybe we've been tricked too easily by people who are promising us too much or instantaneous gratification. And then there is the figuring of things out by looking introspectively, or taking a look over something we may have missed. Things will start to come back online by the end of this week. Now, by the end of this week on the 30th, we are still in retrograde season. it's still there. Like Venus is in retrograde, Mercury will be in retrograde, Uranus will be in retrograde. By the 3rd, September 3rd, Jupiter will be in retrograde. That means all major planets are in retrograde except for Mars, and Mars is in detriment. So there's just not a lot of progress. There's more trial and error, learning, experimentation, but also finding use of what you already have. So there is definitely digging in instead of casting out. Let's talk about Aries specific energy, shall we? Now, how do I do that? I look at what's going on in Aries, the zodiac sign, and then I look at what's going on with your ruling dignitary, which is Mars. So what's going on in Aries is that there's a North Node in Aries, which signifies our awakening and our conscious interaction with life and what we need to embrace, the energies we need to embrace to consciously to elevate ourselves. And that is Aries right now. So it's about our individuality, but also our personal responsibility and our courage to exact that, our confidence to know that that is important to sort of take ourselves on. We also have Chiron at 19 degrees Aries. Now, Chiron is going to be in Aries for quite a few more years. 19 degrees Aries, so it's at the end of the second decade of Aries. Chiron in Aries is very much the hero complex. I want to save people who I don't want to see them going through what I went through. Chiron also teaches us a lot of personal destruction or personal trials or challenges, even challenges physically with our physical self and what they have taught us. When Chiron is in Aries, this is definitely a time for physical healing. It's a time for healing identity in general. Anything that could have compromised the sense of identity, a real grounded understanding of personal responsibility, whatever could have gotten in the way of that, we want to take action on so it doesn't hurt or harm anybody else. So that's what's going on in Aries. Then we have Mars. Mars, like I said, on the 27th goes into Libra, which slows it down because Mars in Libra likes to try both sides. And it gives it this sense of back and forth for a while. Instead of moving forward, it kind of goes back and forth before it decides what is better activity, what is the best path. It also likes to see, how can I even things out? And maybe even in some ways, how can I take action with somebody else instead of just action with myself? So it's not really acting a lot like Mars when it is in detriment. Well, it's always acting like Mars, but it's just, we don't get the real aggressive vibes when it's in Mars. We also have an opposition to Neptune through the 30th, so that will slow Mars down too, or it will excite it or trigger it to be excited by the wrong things that are deceptive. Now, Neptune isn't always deception, but an opposition to Neptune is always going to cause more trouble than it gives. I'm sorry, more trouble than anything else, because it does disrupt, it does interrupt, and Mars opposite Neptune will jump at shadows. It's kind of like, and that's sort of what's going on through the 30th. So for you guys personally, because your ruling dignitary really flavors your energy, this is not a great time to jump to conclusions. This is a wonderful time for self-care, and this is a wonderful time for gratitude exercises. It's always a good time for this, but especially now, to ground yourself in what you do have and what you're lucky to have because you already have it. And this sense of, it's okay if I don't get something done now. It's more important that I understand my goals and what I really want out of this. And then on the next level, understand what I'm working with. So it's more about learning and understanding and taking actions that way. Let's go into the 3 decans of Aries. So if you know that your natal sun is between 0 and 9 degrees Aries, it is in the first decan of Aries, and you are Aries 1. This correlates to Aries birthdays in March. Pretty much Aries birthdays that are March 22nd through March 30th through 31st. Yeah. It will be you guys that will be Aries 1. If you're at the cusp, and the cusp would be basically March 21st, 22nd, 23rd, because maybe some Aries were born on the 21st. That's possible. Absolutely. It toggles year to year. It depends on where the sun is. Let me fix this. It depends on where the sun is. So, yeah, the cusps will be the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. If you are an Aries cusp, you are conjunct, your natal suns are conjunct Neptune and in opposition to Mars. So this distractibility, jumping at shadows and trying to overcompensate for what you don't know or don't understand will be far more powerful for you guys. You will be right in the thick of it. So please take extra compassion with yourself. Definitely count to 10 before you make any choices or decisions. And know that this isn't the best time to allow yourself to get triggered. And that if you are triggered, it may be more on that somebody wants to trigger you to get an action from you instead of something that's actually important to you. You have your natal suns are about 30 degrees from this full moon, which could cause or trigger a lot of agitation and or reveal things that really stir the pot for you, but you need it. You need the release. What I wrote down here is the full moon could really incite a change because of an emotional disruption. So this will be an emotional full moon for you. It's something that you need, but it could also kind of rupture at that point, something that you need to confront. Your natal suns are quincunx, the current sun. Feelings of inadequacy will be super powerful for you guys most of this week. And in opposition to Mars, wanting to get things done your way or lacking energy. So your natal sun, when it's in opposition to Mars, there's this insistence on, I know how to do it. I want to get things done my way. But at the same time, and like at the same time, it's just, oh my God. It could kind of put you in this energy of being, making decisions based on your things that you're self-conscious of, or things that make you feel like trying to prove yourself or overcompensate. This is really important for you to know because it could be dangerous at a certain point. You know, Mars opposite your natal sun could already make you jump at things to do when you're not ready to do them. But with all this other confusion in the air, it's not a good week to get into something like that, especially if it's physical and you haven't done it before and you feel like you have to push yourself. It's not a good week to push yourself because Mars opposite the sun, your natal sun, could bring more likelihood of injury. And then at the end of the day, you realize that it doesn't make a difference anyway because somebody was just egging you on. So don't do it. Don't fucking do it, is what I'm saying. Let's go on to Aries 2. Aries 2, if you know your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Aries, it is in Aries 2, or it's in the second decan of Aries, and you are Aries 2. This correlates to birthdays between, say, April 1st to April 11th. Those of you born basically between the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 9th and 12th of April are really going to be impacted by Chiron still, because your natal suns are tightly conjunct to Chiron. Now this is inspired through challenge. Especially you guys are going to want to take action to defend others in areas where you know how bad it feels to have to go through a similar situation. It is going to amplify your compassion, but also your desire to want to stick up for people. So that could be very good, but it could also be very triggered in this energy. So just know that. Your natal suns are semi-square to the full moon. So there is this energy of I wrote down, okay, so let me add this all up. So there is this energy around the full moon of having your emotions really challenge you, or having your emotions in some ways compromise making good decisions. So I wrote this down: most likely to get back with an ex. I'm not saying that all of you will, or all of you even have an ex inconsistent, but it's like there's such a vulnerability in you because your natal suns are also trine to Venus in retrograde, right? Which is a very optimistic and romantic energy. But they're also within 30 degrees of Jupiter, which means there is this energy of, I want to act now, I need pleasure now, let me get it now. You are the most likely to make the decision that going backwards and doing something that's comfortable and pleasurable is better than moving forwards. And I'm not saying you will, but I'm saying that will be an extra strong temptation this week. And that full moon could really kind of make everything explode for you, be sort of extra emotional. So, and you might feel like you need a little extra tenderness and kindness, and that's fine. But turn to somebody that you know loves you instead of turning backwards to, you know, what you are comfortable with. This is not the time to do that either. It's not a great time to make any redirections, or, you know, like left, right, backwards. No, just allow things and be patient with yourself and allow things to continue to move forward. Even if they have to slow down, it's hard for Aries to slow down. I know that. But there's a sense of it's better to move slower while continuing to move forward, as opposed to hightail it backwards just so you can move fast again. That's what I'm saying. Don't let that lure you in or tug you away from your progress, because progress is slow now, but it can still be made. But sometimes people just want that rush of speed, that rush of instantaneous gratification, and you'll be highly susceptible to that this week. So just know that it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Slow and steady wins the race, but it still wins that fucking race. It may be slow, but it still wins the race. So let's go on to Aries 3s. So Aries 3. If you know that your natal sun is between 20 and 29 degrees Aries, it's in the third decan of Aries. So you are Aries 3. Your birthdays would probably be, it's the range of anywhere between the 12th and the 22nd of April. Your natal suns are conjunct the North Node. So you, above all of you, have this strong sense of personal responsibility and authority and direction and a sense of personal identity. But you are quincunx, your natal suns are quincunx to Mercury, which is now in retrograde. So there is sort of this niggle or frustration when it comes to information not coming in or things not working correctly. And then you also have that square to Pluto, which makes you kind of relentless and really, really, really formidable. None of which are bad, but all together could create craziness. And then there's this sextile to the full moon, which means you guys are the most likely out of all Aries to make a major power play, especially around the full moon. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I am saying that you should only do it around an adversary that is equal to you, not somebody that you're taking advantage of. Because ultimately that always creates shit karma. Though you could make, if you see an opening where there is something to, take that opportunity, do it, as long as you know it's not taking advantage or stepping on other people. That's really, really important. So you're really going to need a lot of control over yourself and to know yourself extremely well to control the level of, I want to get after it, that is going to be happening to you, especially around that full moon. FYI. All right, Aries, I hope this was helpful. I love you guys like crazy. Please remember to like this video and share it on your social media platforms and subscribe to the channel so that we can grow over here. And then come on over to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card message. I'll see you guys there.